Roger Weiland back with you on Big Board Sports. Bob Glauber, NFL columnist, New York Newsday, good friend of the programs for many, many years, all over the NFL, and certainly all over what's going on with these New York teams, including the Giants, who have suspended indefinitely Janoris Jenkins for this week's game and I guess beyond. And good morning, Mr. Glauber. Roger Weiland, Chris Honorado, ESPN Radio in Albany. How are you, my man?
I'm great, gentlemen. Great
Always
to hear your voice, Carvelis.
That's always been Bob's thing with me. That's exactly you've had me pegged there since day one, haven't you?
I know, and then you know what, Roger? No one knows what the hell I'm talking about.
No, exactly. maybe someday we'll have a total explanation of that.
Well, it's very simple. It's a former soccer announcer for the New York Cosmos, and it was named Jim Carvelis. He's dead now, and Jim Carvelis, welcome to Cosmos Soccer.
And that is the correlation that Glauber has with me.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
Roger Weiland, that's how Jim Carvelis would absolutely have pronounced it.
Bruce Beck, Raj, has spoken about, your volume, I'll say.
All right.
So,
Bruce Beck, who
Boy, I've got quite the reputation here, don't I?
Yeah, huh? Bruce Beck is one to say,
exactly.
Talk about that, though. Guy speaks in exclamation points on Twitter, man. Come on.
Hey, Bob, what do you make of the mess with the Giants and now another prominent player being suspended here by Ben McAdoo?
I think you used the word. It's a mess. And I've not seen a team spiral out of control like this in quite some time. The name Ray Handley came up a few weeks ago as a comparison. I don't think personality-wise McAdoo is like Handley, but the era and the situation and the spirit and the terribleness of the locker room is starting to kind of remind me of that. And that's a long time ago. People don't remember that much either, but that was terrible. And, it came after a Super Bowl coach, Bill Parcells in that case, and now Tom Coughlin in this case. And I have not seen a team just go so far south so quickly like this one. A lot of reasons, but the coach is not distinguishing himself. Let's put it that way.
Is the coach in trouble? I really firmly believe that Jerry Reese is gone when this season is over. That's what my gut tells me. I think McAdoo survives, but I'm really starting to wonder about McAdoo too.
See, I would have flipped that. If anything, Reese would be safer than McAdoo, only because I don't know if this is so much a personnel problem as a coaching problem. This is the same group. It was the same group until the injuries hit that went 11-5 and went further than a lot of people thought they would, and they're now 1-6, and it's an unwinnable situation. So I don't know. I think that the drafts have been better over time, and the free agent signings have been good. Now Marshall they missed on, but I don't know anyone complaining about that signing at the time because he gave an outside presence, filled in for Victor Cruz, who was not an outside receiver but was miscast there. So I think it's one or both. I think one of them will go, and it's possible both would go. But if it was just one, I would say they look at it as a coaching issue more than personnel.
Bob, I would be surprised. If they'll. I mean, we're looking at a 3-13 football team. I would have to think, and you're talking about a top 4 pick. I'm kind of with Roger here. That I'd be surprised if they allow Reese to make that selection outside of Beckham. I'm struggling to remember a pick where Reese really hit or made a move up and was aggressive in a draft like that. So I don't know. But as we know in this league, if a new GM comes in, they want a new head coach, right?
Yeah. Yes. I think you can't. See, that's a problem. The Jets saw that when John Idzik was hired with a coach already in place in Rex Ryan. That took 2 years to fizzle, and that was done. It's very, very difficult to have a head coach and inherit a general manager, or at least for that coach to inherit a general manager. It's really tough to do that. I will say Jerry Reese did trade up to get Landon Collins, and that seemed to be a pretty good. It wasn't in the first round, but that seemed to be a pretty good move up to the top pick of the second round a couple of years ago. He's I wouldn't say a generational player, but had an all-pro year last year and was as good as there is at the safety position. So, you can look up and down. I think Evan Ingram is a good pick. I'm not like saying Jerry Reese is the best general manager in football, but I'm just saying that it has not been this abomination of a roster. This is not an abomination of a roster. They got an issue at quarterback. They'll sort that out. They'll probably get a chance to pick one of those quarterbacks up high. So, and you say, like, people say, well, we got to get rid of Reese. All right, give me your top 3 replacement candidates.
Yeah, I don't have any. I don't have any. I think the thing with Reese, Bob, is
but you have to answer that. I mean,
right.
That question has to be answered. And there's been a lot of turnover, a lot of churning of general managers. People say, well, John Dorsey got fired by the Chiefs. Well, yeah, he got fired by the Chiefs. Okay? And that's an Andy Reid, project there. The reason that team is good is because of Andy Reid, not the general manager.
I think one of the things that Reese gets a lot of criticism for, and I'm with it, is that the offensive line is bad, and he did nothing in the offseason to do anything with that O-line that has really not been very good, and he made no movement to improve the offensive line in the offseason. Agreed.
Now, I think there are some circumstances that you got to at least keep in mind. You got a 23-year-old left tackle who had a crap year in year 2, had a promising year in year 1, and he's coming into year 3, and you lay down the law. Say, you got to get better. You're a number 8 over top 10 pick. Eric Flowers, you got to get better. And guess what? He has gotten better. He is not in the conversation now of what's wrong with the offensive line. The problem turned out to be at right tackle, and that's Bobby Hart, and they didn't make an upgrade there. Another young player, 7th-round pick. He stunk, and he got hurt, and he was bad. Once they got him out of there, it was better. But you had to take Pugh from left guard, put him at right tackle, and then you put Fluker in at right guard, and he's a much more physical presence. And Brett Jones ends up playing at center after Richburg gets hurt. So they had a semblance of a line that did a great job against Denver. Didn't get it done against the Seattle team that has a swarming defense. Although you could hardly tell last week against Houston. So there are logical reasons for not spending money on a 35-year-old tackle in Andrew Whitworth, which the Rams did. And they came out the better team for it. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But, if you're building a team from the ground up, you do patch things together. I don't know. But I agree. I think the offensive line, I'm wrestling with the idea whether it's personnel or whether the coaches failed to see that the combination they went into the season with wasn't working, and they had to get out of it, and they only got out of it when players got hurt.
Bob Glauber, NFL columnist for New York Newsday, with us here on Big Board Sports 104.5, the team, ESPN Radio. Bob, the Jets have already far exceeded most people's expectations, and so at 3-5, I think a lot of people now are expecting maybe the season to fall away from them a little bit. When would you expect New York to make a change at quarterback, if at all, to look at Bryce Petty or Christian Hackenberg in an extended stay in the regular season?
I think it's going to be later rather than sooner, only because, Todd Bowles said it after the game the other day. What you're going to get a look at your younger quarterbacks, and he said, I got to look at them in the preseason. What he didn't say was, and they stunk.
Right.
And he's like, I got to look, and I'm going with Josh. Now, kind of, under the radar in this whole season, Josh McCown has had one of his best years. He's playing fine. Now, 2 killer interceptions, you can't absolve them. And they were bad against New England and Miami, and they were game-changing type interceptions. But the quarterback position overall has been solid for I'm surprised that it's been that solid because, quite frankly, Josh McCown was 2-20 over his previous 3 years in the NFL, but he's playing with Drek, he's playing in Tampa, and he's playing 2 years in Cleveland. And they got nothing around him, but it's been functional. As big a problem on this team is defense. But again, it always does come down to the quarterback. I think that from what we saw of Todd Bowles last year, when he kept putting Ryan Fitzpatrick out there and he wouldn't go to Geno and then he wouldn't go to Petty, I think it will be delayed a little bit, unless he and Mike Maccagnan, Bowles and Mike Maccagnan, just say, look it. We're done. We're not going to get any better. Josh is not going to be here next year. We're going to get a new quarterback. Let's just see if either of these two guys can get it done. And Hackenberg is the more. I think Petty is what he is. He's okay. He throws a nice deep ball, but he gets in trouble with most of the other parts of the offense. But he did. The light did come on toward the end of the preseason for him with that West Coast offense. So maybe there's a little something there. And then Hackenberg, I think they have their answer, and that answer is he can't play in this league at a level that you need to be functional, and I think they'll move on from that. He may stay on the roster next year, but I just don't think he is a realistic alternative.
Bob, finally, just twofold here quickly. Where do you stand on the Buffalo Bills at 5-2, and they add Kelvin Benjamin yesterday?
Yep.
That's a big addition. And then are you good with Philadelphia being the best team in the NFL right now?
Yeah, I'm good with Philly being the best team right now. I think that's a key. The Jason Peters injury at left tackle is very concerning, no doubt. But they have proved that they are up to the task now. Whether they can keep it up, we'll see. They get Jay Ajayi to supplement at running back, and that's a good move. I am bullish on the Bills. I must say I'm extremely impressed with how they've done it. And Sean McDermott, he's a Coach of the Year candidate right now. That's how good this operation is. Whether they can sustain it, we'll see. But I'm very impressed with how they're handling the roster. They're transitioning and still winning, and that's a hard thing to do.
Bob Glauber, you're the best, man, even though you have some weird way of looking at me.
Roger Weiland.
Bob, you're the best, man. We love your work,
Raj.
and I know we'll be back in touch. We'll catch up again shortly.
Thanks, my man. Great to
Bob.
talk.